Nikola Jokic casually makes NBA history with the first 30-point, 20-rebound, 20-assist triple-double in an overtime victory over the Phoenix Suns. We're going to discuss that and all the NBA games from tonight on Locked On NBA Game Night.
When that final buzzer rings, you know it's time for Locked On NBA Game Night. All the post-game reactions to every game across the league, every single night, with insights only the hosts at Locked On can provide. It's the true NBA fans' one stop for all the action. Every game, every night. It's Locked On NBA Game Night. Tipping off now.
Thanks for tuning in to Locked On NBA Game Night, where it's every game, every night. We're joined in the building by Swiper, one of the hosts of Locked On Nuggets. I'm Hayes, one of the hosts of Locked On Bulls. And we get to start off with your team, Swiper, man. Listen, Jokic, he's just such a special player to watch, man. A 30-point, 20-rebound, 20-assist triple-double, the first time ever in NBA history. He's only the third player in NBA history to ever have a 20-20 and 20 game, joining Wilt Chamberlain and Russell Westbrook. How'd you feel about the performance tonight?
Yeah, Wilt Chamberlain and Russ have had 20-20 games. Jokic in this game, the Suns were deploying a pretty traditional defense versus him. Jokic has been seeing nothing but like a slanted 3-man, 5-man team defense for the last week or so. And so it's obviously really debilitated how good the Nuggets offense have been. But the Suns just decided for whatever reason, maybe the personnel they have, that they just were not going to do what the Celtics, the Kings, and the Lakers are doing. And we're just going to trust our scheme. And Jokic fried him. And he wasn't even like, the thing was, he started the game off. He had 10, 6, and 6 in the first quarter, but it wasn't like he was really like churning butter. Like, you know what I mean? Like, wasn't like I'm really going for it. And then all of a sudden in the second half, at some point, he just absolutely took over. Jokic with 22 assists today sets the NBA record for the most assists in a game by a center. But I want to give people for context, because a lot of people are like, Wilt Chamberlain, this and that. Wilt Chamberlain at his apex was playing 48 minutes a game. Yeah. And he was playing 130 possessions a game. The game was faster, and he wasn't coming out. So when Wilt Chamberlain scored in 1962, I believe, scored 100 points in a game, he was doing this while going to the free throw line more than 25 times, getting all of the shots, everything. Everything went through Wilt, and he didn't exit the game. I don't know when we're going to see that again. But to think that you would get a player, and this is the thing about Jokic that goes beyond the numbers, y'all. Jokic is not just about the counting stats. It's about what's happening around him on the court because of the nature by which you have to guard him. And Jamal Murray had 19 points and 8 assists tonight. Didn't have to carry a huge scoring load. Well, that's because Aaron Gordon, 27 points, I believe. He was 7 of 10, by the way, from the three-point line in this game. And Aaron Gordon, very, very, very sneakily, y'all, if you didn't know this, AG is shooting, I think it's still at 43%. He's shooting 44% from three this year. Aaron Gordon's shooting splits this year are 51.5, 44.0, and 80, with a 63 true shooting this year for Aaron Gordon.
That's
like
crazy.
Nuggets, their offense was banging. Their defense was horrible. I think they went into this game tonight, Hayes, thinking that the Suns were just going to kind of lay down and they weren't going to have to play much defense. But Devin Booker in that second half was incredible. Just an incredible game from Devin Booker. The shot making was incredible. He got an and one 4-point play in the fourth quarter that made all the difference in getting the Phoenix Suns back into the game. And then Kevin Durant made the shot of shots, makes a three-pointer with 1.4 seconds left in the game. It ties the game up after Chris Brown makes a go-ahead three. By the way, shout out Michael Porter Jr. too, Hayes. The Nuggets were down 2. The Nuggets missed a shot at basically 33 seconds remaining. The Suns get the ball and get the rebound. Michael Porter Jr. wrestles the ball away from Mason Plumlee to put the ball back in the basket. Now it's tied to give them a chance to stay in the game and get the lead. So, honestly, it was a fireworks show for both teams, and both teams, they showed up, and the Stars played great tonight.
Absolutely. And the Phoenix Suns, who you can't count them out yet. We don't know what the future is going to hold for them, but with the Dallas Mavericks going through everything that they're going through, and we'll talk about that team later on in the show, the Suns being 2.5 games back are not out the realm of making that play-in if that is what they decide to do. But if they keep playing like they played tonight, they're probably going to get there. With the Suns and the Sacramento Kings probably going to go on their way down here. We'll see how that goes. It does open up an opportunity for the Suns. we can't leave this part of this segment without at least having this conversation. The MVP race, Shai, Jokic, it's down to these two players. I talked to one of your co-hosts, Matt Moore. We do Locked On NBA every day together, and he constantly said you can't count Jokic out in this MVP race yet. Do you think nights like tonight prove that while Shai may be ahead right now, you can't count him out of the MVP race?
Well, I mean, really, honestly, it's just hard. Like, what do you value? Do you value the best player, best season?
Mm-hmm.
Or do you say best case within the season, which I think SJ would have? I mean, they have 11-game lead for first. Tonight, OKC, they beat the Portland Trailblazers, I think, by 18 points tonight with no SGA, no J-Dub, no Chet, no iHeart. I mean, they're just, like, loaded. And their defense is what carries them. They got the best defense, basically, this side of the 04 Pistons. Like, SGA's been incredible this year, and he's been an insane level scorer all season. But I'll tell people the same thing I tell everybody else. Like, all the traditional advanced analytics that, like, just count like how important or how impactful a player is. Like, most of it says Jokic, Shai has EPM and like on-court net rating and all that kind of stuff. So, I mean, it really, like, I think Shai has a terrific case, but I'm not going to lie to you, Hayes. I think, like, if you're just looking at the seasonal totality, Jokic is averaging 29, 13, and 10.6 and 1.8 steals on 58, 44, 82 splits this year. I mean, I do find it very difficult to say that somebody else has been a more valuable player than Nikola Jokic this year. And I think it really comes down to that. Like, is it the team success that's going to sway you, or is it the fact that, like, somebody's having this caliber of season on a 50-win team?
It's a fact. It's a fact. We'll see what the future does hold there, man. Let's get into the next game that we have to talk about today. The Clippers with the Knicks. This was a game that came down to the wire. James Harden scored 27 points in this one. Kawhi Leonard 20 points as well. 105-95 tonight in favor of the Clippers. How'd you feel about this game?
Look, the Clippers are in an interesting situation. Obviously, there's no Jalen Brunson tonight, and so that's the first thing that I think everybody needs to mention. Jalen Brunson obviously goes down with the ankle injury. Just a nasty fall, but hopefully, hey, it's not going to be anything that, like, debilitates him for any longer than 2 weeks. I just think he's having too great of a year for that to happen. I would really hate that. But look, the Clippers, man, like, they have to get these wins. Like, the Western Conference, y'all, is just a war right now. The Clippers, y'all, they're 34-29. If they were 34-29 sitting in the other conference, they would be stamped right behind the Pistons, basically, for the 6th seed in the Eastern Conference. They're 34-29, and they're in the 8th seed in the West, and they're a game out of the playoff behind the Golden State Warriors, who are currently sitting at the 6th seed. And on top of that, y'all, if you just kind of look at the last 10, the Clippers are 4-6 in their last 10. They did just win, including tonight, 2 straight games. But, the Golden State Warriors are coming. And so James Harden and the rest of that roster, they did what they needed to do tonight. You got good games out of the players that you needed to. James Harden, 27 points, just 7 of 20 from the field. But again, his playmaking is what does it. 7 assists tonight. He was a plus 14. Ivica Zubac tonight has 16 points and 14 rebounds. He continues to be one of the best two-way bigs in the league. And I think he's going to have a very, very interesting playoff if he does make the playoff this year, at least in the play-in. Kawhi Leonard gets 20 points on 6 of 18 from the field, slowly but surely coming back. And then Chris Dunn, who for me would be a first-team All-NBA defender, just continues to have a great defensive season, had a great defensive game tonight. So the Clippers, they won. Obviously, the New York Knicks are shorthanded right now. Karl Anthony Towns, 8 of 21, 23 points, had 10 rebounds, but he was a minus 17. Just no defense played on that end today for them. But the Clippers, they get a really, really important win, and they're trying to keep pace as best as possible in the Western Conference.
Yeah, I mean, and that's difficult to keep that pace in the Western Conference. The Clippers right now sit at the 8th seed, so they right now be in the play-in tournament. But the Golden State Warriors, like you said, the run that they've been on since getting Jimmy Butler has just been crazy. I've talked about that team as a team that I don't want to count out in the playoffs as long as they have Jimmy. But the Clippers, when healthy, like if you could bet on them being healthy, I wouldn't even worry about them having to go through the play-in because I think they can make it out of that and then make it interesting in the first round. It's just you just don't know what Kawhi's health is going to be by the time you get to the playoffs. You just don't know what's going to go in there. But their roster too, Hayes. Like to be fair, now what they have Bogey. Yeah.
off the bench, with Norman Powell, with James Harden, with Kawhi Leonard. They got Chris Dunn, Zubac. They got Nicholas Batum. I mean, they honestly have a litany of defenders that they can throw at you in any given time. Derrick Jones Jr., Amir Coffey. They honestly are really good, but it's just going to be that top end talent. Like in James Harden, is he going to be able to play well enough for the rest of the season to sustain them? Especially as Kawhi's kind of still figuring things out.
Yeah. And we'll see what the future does hold for that. I like that Clippers team as far as some of the players on that team. And we'll see. And especially now that they have that new home court advantage, because that wall thing is real. It's real.
Yeah. No, I love it. Yeah, I love it. They might have the best stadium in basketball right now.
Yeah, it was just crazy. We need to bring more things like that back into NBA stadiums, more things to just make it unique. But we're going to continue the conversation, man. Next up, we're going to be discussing the Cavs and their win over the Hornets today. But first, we got to get to a message from PrizePicks. Basketball season is heating up, and there's no better way to get in on the action than with PrizePicks, the best place for daily fantasy sports. With over 10 million members and billions in awarded winnings, PrizePicks makes it easy and fun to turn your sports knowledge into real money. Here's how it works. Just pick more or less on at least 2 player projections, and if you're right, you could win up to 100 times your cash. This week, I'm looking at board and selecting more for Jason Tatum on points and more for Trae Young on assists. The best part, PrizePicks keeps it simple. You can set your lineup in less than 60 seconds, and their fast, secure withdrawals mean you get paid quickly when you win. Plus, their Taco Tuesday promo gives you discounted player projections for even more value. Check out the promos tab to nail any of the super sweet Millie Winners game lineups. If you tell a lineup that goes for three for three, you can win a split of up to $1 million in promo funds. Download the app today. Use code LOCKEDONNBA to get $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. That's code LOCKEDONNBA for $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. PrizePicks, run your game. More Locked On NBA coming up next. All right, Swiper, man. A lot of games tonight, a lot of fun games as well. One of the games that was more fun than I was expecting was the Cavs 118-117 over the Hornets. The Hornets have been a team that coming into the season, I really thought the Hornets was going to at least compete for a playing spot. I did not expect the Hornets season to go the way that it did. The Cavs win their 13th game in a row, of course, in this stretch. How do you feel about both these teams, specifically the Cavs winning 13 games in a row?
Look, you get a win. Like, that's the most important thing. Cleveland, 43 of 51 from the free throw line. Oh, my gosh. That's disgusting. But you got the win. You did what you were supposed to do. They going to foul. We going to shoot. We going to make. So, I mean, shout out to Cleveland, man. 13-game win streak. This is their second win streak. Or it might be their third. I think it might be their third win streak of 13 or more games. They started the year off 15-0. Now they're 13-0 right now. They're a juggernaut. Like I think people are still kind of, for whatever reason, they're forcefully waking up to the Cleveland being in the conversation for best team in the NBA. They at least, I think, from 1 to 10, have the best roster in the Eastern Conference. Even if you don't think that Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown, you think that's better top end talent than Donovan Mitchell, Darius Garland, Evan Mobley, and Jarrett Allen, then whatever, cool. But I love how Cleveland is structured. And then on top of that, you're getting DeAndre Hunter, who's a starter in this league off the bench, 15 and a plus 17 tonight. He was the best. In his minutes, they were the best version of themselves tonight when he was on the court. He's a good defender, good shooter. I mean, overall, Evan Mobley, 19 points, 10 rebounds, 4 assists. And Evan Mobley, somebody developing their jumper, and the dude makes a massive, massive three down the stretch of this game. When the game, honestly, was in the balance and you didn't know what direction the game was going to go in. So, again, like, the Hornets fought hard. And shout out to Miles Bridges, who had 46 points today on 15 of 32 himself. He's honestly been doing a very, very good carry job for this team. Yusuf Nurkic has 12 and 15 rebounds tonight as well. So, Hayes, look, the Hornets play hard, and they're going to continue to try to find ways to at least compete in these games. But honestly, Cleveland, they just made all the right stuff. I noted on Players' Choice earlier today, Cleveland's the number one clutch team in the NBA. But, like, not even close. Like, they out-execute everyone in situations like that because they got players that can all shoot, and they all know what they're doing. They all are locked into their responsibilities. They did it again today.
Yeah, and the thing with that you love is that they just always find a way to win. Like Darius Garland, who there's been some like injury questions around him, like if he's more banged up than what they're letting on. Only 4 of 10 from the field today with 20 points, but getting to the free throw line 9 times is important. They got to the free throw line 51 times today. I don't know how you stop that. Like the 3-ball wasn't falling incredibly well today, but like if you're going to be able to get to the free throw line and attack like that, we already know Donovan Mitchell and his ability to get to the free throw line almost whenever he wants to. That's just this team just continually finds new ways and angles in every single game to pull it out, and that's what's going to make them so dangerous. Here's the question I want to throw to you here, though, because they are in a spot where they could very well try to fight for to get a lot more wins here to end the season, right? At what point do you think the Cleveland Cavaliers just start getting ready for the postseason and maybe take their foot a bit off the gas, and worried about wins down the stretch of the season?
I mean, you definitely, I think the last couple of weeks want to start to rev it down where you're starting to rest more and more. You know, I don't think you just want to outright sit everybody, because you know what happens is they're going to get the number 1 seed, and then for the 8 seed, as their reward will be getting to know their opponent last, because the 8 seed's going to battle out in the last game of the play-in. And I think they get 2 days of preparation from that point.
Yeah.
So you already get a natural break in at the end of the season that's going to be about 3 or 4 or 5 days. So you don't want to like be completely cold going into the playoff, but I would make sure as best as I can, every single player on my roster that has any knick-knack injuries or something they've been dealing with for the last few weeks or whatever, this is the point where we're going to make sure you're ready to go and you're available. And I would have a very, very nice, detailed, mapped out plan with my training staff of how I'm going to get everybody right where they need to be, because Hayes, they have an 8-game lead. They have an 8-game lead for first place in the Eastern Conference. Now, again, once they get to 60 wins, Hayes, like, what are we doing? Like, I mean, let's say they get to 62-12. Like, you got 8 games left in the season. There's nothing much to push for. Like, we already won 62 games. What are we proving here? Yeah. Like, let's just continue to get people healthy, get everybody involved on our bench that needs to be involved, and then we can kind of just mitigate any injuries we have, because, hey, it is going to be a bloodbath in the Eastern Conference playoff, because I think the Pacers are hungry. Once they get out of that first round, the Pacers are there, the Bucks are there, and then I think the Celtics are going to be waiting there, and they're going to see one of LA, OKC, or Denver, I imagine, or even the Wolves coming out of the Western Conference, and all of those are going to be just bloodbaths. So Cleveland needs to be doing everything it can to get ready by getting everybody healthy.
Yeah, and Cleveland just got to walk that tightrope, right? You want everybody healthy, but you don't want to rest everyone too early, because you want to have that momentum going into there. We've seen teams that try to hit the rest button too quick, and then you get caught slipping in the first round, which I'm not too worried about the Cleveland Cavaliers. I think they're just too deep to worry about that, but we'll see. Moving into the next game, the Minnesota Timberwolves get their 4th win in a row. They're trying to wake up here towards the end of the season. They get a win over the Miami Heat 106-104 in this game. No player for the Minnesota Timberwolves scores 20 points, but they spread it out. They have 7 players scoring in double digits in this game. How do you feel about this game?
Well, this is an interesting win. I actually definitely thought Anthony Edwards was going to go crazy today, only get 10 shots from him. But shout out to the Miami Heat. I mean, they have a very specific kind of defense they're going to run, and they wanted to get the ball out of hands and moved around as much as possible. And so they get a good win. The Heat, I think, are going to be an interesting situation. Davion Mitchell having a little bit of a resurgence with them, finding his way. Bam Adebayo, especially, man, like, ever since they really have integrated some of these bigger lineups, he's played even better. You get 29, 13 rebounds, and 4 assists from Bam today. Had a really good game. But again, I think the Wolves are like still, they are a fringe contender in the Western Conference. I think with the right matchups, they can make it to the Western Conference Finals. I still think they're a really good team. They haven't had Rudy Gobert for like quite a while. Like they're not even whole yet. And so even the fact that they're winning, I think it's really a credit to how Chris Finch and the rest of the staff has gotten the players to lock into their identity. But my question, Hayes, is they're basically tied at the 6th seed with the Golden State Warriors.
Yeah.
Which one of those teams do you think is going to actually end up with the 6th seed?
Man, that's a great question. So right now, I'll probably say the Golden State Warriors, because it's just a motivated Jimmy Butler, and you pair that with the Steph and Steve Kerr as the coach. I just would give them the edge, but The Minnesota Timberwolves are a team that's playing much better here, over the last month or so. And it seems like they're starting to kind of figure out their balance a little bit more. Nas Reed is playing really well for them as well. They need to figure out that McDaniels, Julius Randle thing, because I don't think they play the best when they're on the court together. But if I had to pick a team right now, I'll say the Golden State Warriors. But I wouldn't be surprised if it is the Minnesota Timberwolves.
Woo, child, man. Do you think how far do you think the Warriors can go? Like,
I said it on Locked On NBA today. We had a conversation on the lowest seed that we think could still make it out their conference. And right now, I'm picking the Golden State Warriors at the 6th seed. I think that if depending on how the matchups shake out,
matchups fall.
I think that they have a chance to make out the West.
I love their team, man. Their defense is legit. Jimmy's legit. Post out of nowhere. I'm talking about that dude is a sniper.
Yeah.
He fits right what they want next to Draymond too. Man, they're going to be a dangerous team in the playoffs. And honestly, man, I want to see them versus OKC in the first round. Like, that's my vision. I want to see like how Steph Curry would figure that out. But it's probably going to end up being them and whoever the 3 seed is.
Yeah, I agree with that.
And just to be clear here, I want to give them even more credit. I don't know if you know this. The Houston Rockets they have a 3-game lead over them, but the Warriors have an easier schedule, I believe, than the Rockets going forward. There's another real possibility that the Golden State Warriors make it all the way up to that 4-5 slot. And I think that would be dangerous right there as well.
It absolutely would. Absolutely will. We'll see what happens with the Warriors. With the Warriors. I do think they're the team to watch out for as the rest of the way that this goes, man. But we're going to continue the show. We're going to continue talking about the Thunder when their win over the Blazers today. But first, we got to get to a message from FanDuel. When the game tips off, the NBA action is just getting started, and there's no better place to get in on the action than America's #1 sportsbook, FanDuel. With FanDuel, live bets can be placed throughout the game. Miss the opening tip-off? Want to bet on the fourth quarter comeback? Stay in the action, and if you're looking for a bigger payout, combine live bets into a same-game parlay. Right now, new FanDuel customers can get $150 in bonus bets if their first $5 bet wins. Just visit FanDuel.com to join today. That's FanDuel.com for a shot at $150 in bonus bets. Make every moment more with FanDuel, an official sportsbook partner of the NBA. Or game night coming up next. All right. Thunder, Blazers, 107-89. No surprise here. The OKC Thunder continue to just defeating teams at a crazy rate and net rating there. Aaron Wiggins scores 30 points today. Jalen Williams had his first career triple-double as well. And with Shai Gilgeous-Alexander on the bench, this OKC Thunder team shows you still cannot take them lightly. How you feeling about the Thunder here?
Again, they had no Chet Holmgren, no Cason Wallace, no J-Dub, no Isaiah Hartenstein, no Shai Gilgeous-Alexander.
Yeah.
And they beat the Portland Trail Blazers by 18 points. Okay. Audience. Now, I know y'all watch this show, and y'all love this show. Matter of fact, Hayes and I are probably 2 of your favorite. You know why? Hayes and I got real chemistry. We always have. I don't think people realize that, like, the Blazers aren't, like, some bad team. Like, they actually have been playing very well, really, since the start of the year. And I think people need to know that, like, this is not just, like, some scrubs that they were playing that they beat today. Like, just in this year, the Portland Trailblazers have been performing around like the 14th best team since January 1st. The Blazers have the 5th best defense in basketball since January 1st. The 5th. And it didn't matter. No Chet, no J-Dub, no SGA, no nothing. The OKC Thunder are juggernauts. The fact, Hayes, that they didn't even have their best players. And yet, even still, you get a dude to give you 10, 11, and 11. You get 30 points, 5 rebounds, and 3 assists on 13 of 26 shots in Aaron Wiggins. Wiggins is a baller. And then off the bench, who only scored 1 point, you get Alex Caruso in 24 minutes, who's a plus 17. because I don't say this lightly, Hayes. Alex Caruso has the argument for the best guard defender this century. He's that good. Like, whatever people think of Tony Allen and Kobe and all these other players, Alex Caruso, from the moment he got into his like defensive prime with the Lakers to being with Chicago to being to now, he's unbelievable. Like, so the fact that they can do this without their stars, to me, is just like wildly impressive. And again, like, I think that Portland's good. Donovan Clingan played tonight, nothing. Shaedon Sharpe played tonight, nothing. Didn't matter. Like, they just couldn't stop anybody. And Anthony Simon, they just couldn't stop anybody. Like, so Toumani Camara was a -32 tonight. He's one of the best wing defenders in the league. So, hey, they're real, man. They're the real deal.
Yeah, the Thunder are legit. Like, I don't think at this point in the season you can question anything about the Thunder. They're going to keep finding ways to beat teams. And I love what you said about Alex Caruso there, because I think for so often, like, people try to judge Caruso by the stat sheet, and he's not a guy that you can always gain his impact. You have to actually watch him play basketball. But even tonight, 17 points. And, I think that getting wins like this could help them even more in the playoffs, because there are going to be some games where they do need Alex Caruso to step up and shoot really good, or Isaiah Joe, or some of those players. So this is just a good win for the Thunder, as they all are, and they keep marching down. Next up, the Grizzlies get a win over the Mavs today, 122-111 in this game. We do have short from Nick Angstead in this one. Go ahead and play that now.
Job for the Dallas Mavericks. An incredible effort. A team with only 9 players, one of them Caleb Martin making his debut, but on a minutes restriction, and the Dallas Mavericks put in a ton of effort in this game. They even had a lead late, but ended up losing this game. John Morant found his shot finally. He went 3 of 13 in the first half, and then finished with 24 points in the second half. Just an incredible game from him. Desmond Bane, a great game from the Grizzlies as well. But the Dallas Mavericks, Brandon Williams on a 2-way contract, 31 points, a career high for him. He was absolutely great, showing off how hot he can get on only 15 shots he took, but he was so crafty, finding his shot. And the Mavs played this small ball. They didn't play Dwight Powell the entire second half. They played Kessler Edwards at the 5, Najee Marshall at the 5. Brandon Williams was able to navigate all that space, and he was able to take advantage of it. Najee Marshall himself, 29 points, 17 boards. Just an incredible effort game from him. Great work from him all around. But the Mavs lose, and that's kind of what they want to do right now.
Man.
The season of the Mavs is gone, man.
I can't stand that for that franchise,
bro. I feel so bad for Mavs fan, because where this season started off with, and the expectations coming into the season, because I actually like a lot of what the Mavs did to kind of add to this roster. I thought that they added a lot of depth coming into the season, and a trade for Luka Dončić.
Why would they make those? Why add the depth though? Why get Najee? No, hey, why get Najee Marshall? Why get Klay Thompson? For what?
Yeah.
If you're just going to give up I think at minimum a top 4 player in the sport. Why? Why give these players on your team? That doesn't make sense. So Nick sounds so downtrodden. Kyrie Irving tears his ACL. Anthony Davis looks spectacular for half. He's out because of a growing injury. Now he's out for the rest of the year. And then you lose Luka Dončić because your GM said he's fat and he drinks too many ginger beers. Like, this is, man, bro, I feel horrible for Mavericks fans, because if you would have told me that, like, this is, matter of fact, Hayes, this is the Bulls, not quite as good, obviously, or not near as good. This is the Bulls trading Michael Jordan in 1988 because they can't get over the big game and they can't beat the Detroit Pistons. And he's selfish and he's a shot chucker and he won't change his game. And then they just trade him to the Lakers for James Worthy.
Yeah.
Like, this is what that would have been. Like, think about how devastated the city of Chicago would have been if you never had I can't believe that they did this, man. And it sucks that they're in a situation, bless you, where they just have to lose.
Yeah, I mean, that's the best place this franchise can be in. I hope that they can find some path on this. Like, you get Anthony Davis, he gets injured in the first game. Like, that whole experience was the Anthony Davis experience in one game. Like, he plays really good, gets hurt, he's out for however long he's going to be hurt. And just that the whole place that this fan base has found themselves in, I don't wish that upon any fan base in sports, because you trade Luka, and even if you wanted to trade Luka Dončić, right? Like, let's just say you made the decision that you wanted to move on from Luka. You don't start a bidding war for him. You take the first deal that you get offered, basically.
Hayes.
Like, there's no part of that makes any sense.
And then he just bought, and then the Lakers could very well go to the finals this year.
Yep.
And they very well could win the finals this year because they had Luka and LeBron and JJ Redick putting a master game plan together. And then now what? Now Nico's just sitting in his house on his couch, drinking a cold one and just like, oh, great game. Great. Wow. What an NBA finals. 4-2 Lakers. I wish I had a player like that on my team, Hayes.
Yeah. I mean, who knows, bro? Like, I have no idea what their thought process is. Hopefully they plan on pulling something out sooner rather than later, because if they don't, I don't know what to say. I don't know what to say anymore.
Whatever. Next game, Hayes.
Next game. Last game of the night. What are we talking about? We can move on from stupid franchises. The Raptors win over the Jazz today, 118-109. The Raptors have a small window in which they can maybe try to. They've won 3 in a row. Maybe they're trying to get back into the play-in race. Right now, they find themselves 4 games behind the Chicago Bulls in that spot. It'll be difficult with the games that are left. They do have an easier schedule left than the Chicago Bulls. But how do you feel about the Toronto Raptors and the Jazz here for that matter? The Utah Jazz, 15 wins on the season. They're clearly, trying to go different. I think they're going to make a lot of trades this offseason. Go ahead.
Do the Hawks want to be in the playoff, Hayes?
Do the Hawks want to be?
Yeah, do they want to be? Let's give them a yes.
I think yes on the Hawks, yeah.
Do the Magic this year want to be in the playoffs?
Yeah. You don't think so?
They're getting swept out the first round. They look horrible right now, right?
Yeah.
They're the 9th seed. Do the Bulls want to be in the playoff, Hayes?
They shouldn't, but I have no idea with that franchise. I don't think so, though.
Okay. The Nets. Do the Nets want to be in the playoffs?
No.
Do the 76ers want to be in the playoff with no Embiid?
No.
Okay. That's who's in front of the Raptors. And the Raptors probably have the most incentive to make the playoffs because they have a good structure, a good roster that's young and developing, and they have a system and a coach that they're all trying to build a singular identity. So that's the only reason why the Raptors should want to make the playoffs is build good habits for the future. They already have assets. They're developed. They're going to get more assets anyway. So yeah, sure. But I think it's going to be by default. I think the Eastern Conference, even with the Hawks, like with Trae Young and them, like what are they making the playoffs for? Like what's going to happen? Like what are you doing in that situation? The Orlando Magic, if you make it, I think mostly because of injuries, not because of anything else. I don't even think they believe they can make, maybe you can get 2 games in the first round or something. I just think if the Raptors do try to make it into the playoff, I think they might get there by default because everybody else is trying to tank for assets because of how bad the East has gotten, really, truly, from 7 down, which is just unfortunate. And most of that's due to injuries.
Yeah. I mean, a lot of it's due to injuries. A lot of it's due to just the place of those franchises. But you make an interesting case for that because while the Raptors are 4 games back, I mean, they're 5-5 in the last 10. This is their 3rd win in a row. They just got to keep it up. I mean, they can easily pass. They could by the end of the weekend, they can go from being 4 games back to being 2.5 games back. So
yeah,
we'll see what happens here. The game overall, though, against the Jazz, like the Jazz are such an interesting team because I feel like the Jazz have some talent on their roster, but I just think that the franchise doesn't believe in any of it. Which I get it. They're a 14-win team, a 15-win team. Why believe in it? But like, I'm so surprised they didn't pull the trigger on more players at the deadline.
Yeah, I mean, the Jazz are just trying to. Some fans have complained, bro, that they don't have like any blue chip athletes, like blue chip players on this roster. I mean, I don't know if I agree with that. Like, Keontae George has had a really up and down year, and he definitely can be a frustrating player. Tonight, he had 18 points still, 4-14 from the field. Like, you can see it in him. Kyle Filipowski, I think, he had some good minutes today. Like, he had 17 points. He won his minutes today. Colin Sexton is a player that I think a lot of teams are looking at and want. Walker Kessler is probably their most prized possession because he's just like a legitimate big. And he had 18 and 25 rebounds with 13 offensive rebounds today. Like, Kessler is legitimate. Like, he's like, to me, I think Kessler can be like Zubac. And I think tonight he was just controlling everything on the boards. And so the Raptors even struggle with them. So Utah, they just play hard. Will Hardy's a really good coach. I just think they're probably a couple years away from being a year away. but I do love their process that they're putting in place right now. I think they have a mix of veterans and they have a mix of young players that are trying to figure out their place in this league. And who knows, man, like, Cody Williams continues to figure out how to use his body. Keontae George figures his game out. Isaiah Collier, good player, figured out how to play point guard in the league. They got Walker Kessler, Bryce Simpson Ball. Like, they have assets. They have like good players on the roster, man, but I think the Raptors are just a better team than them. So they just got beat.
That's a fact. That's a fact. Well, any other thoughts before we get up out of here, Swipe?
Spurs Kings game.
Oh, dang, we did forget the Spurs Kings game. I almost completely forgot about that game. 127-109.
Yeah.
With this Kings over the Spurs. The Kings are a team that's in an interesting place, right? They make the move.
Mm-hmm.
They trade De'Aaron Fox. They now have reunited Zach LaVine with DeMar DeRozan. They're trying to make, we don't know if they're trying to what their goal is with the playoffs or not. They're right there though. They're still in that race. They're in that hunt to go through the play-in. How much do you believe in this Sacramento Kings team? Like, do you think this is a team that could make it out the play-in? Do they have the chance to do that?
Yeah.
Is this a team that's going to blow it up? What do you think?
100%, bro. Zach LaVine balled today. Like, I really like Zach LaVine's game. He had 36 tonight, 14 of 22, and a 7 of 11 from the three. Like, he's a gunslinger. He's a really good player. Keon Ellis was a plus 23 in his minutes. Very similar to Alex Caruso, like a low usage but a high impact player in Keon Ellis.
Mm-hmm.
Keegan Murray tonight had 19. Valanciunas had 15 and 12. Then you get 22 points rather from DeMar DeRozan. They have a really good team, and they showed out today versus the team in the Spurs that obviously no Wemby. They're just they don't have any business being in the play-in at all. Obviously now anymore either. But I think the Kings can be they can be a tough out for certain teams. But the problem is, man, like the Thunder, Nuggets, and Lakers are probably the three most physical teams in the league, and that would be a lot for them to deal with. I think if they had to see a playoff series worth of that.
Yeah, and I think the Kings, like even them making the play and even making it out the play, which I do think they have a slight chance to do, could be good for them to kind of choose the direction of what they want to do with this team. That they have a team that does it by like the death by 1,000 cuts, right? Like you have all these players in your starting lineup. Any one could go off really on any given night, depending on how you do it. I think if they can solidify that bench this offseason and find a kind of a better balance there, and these players get an actual offseason and training camp to figure out how they play together, I think this is a Kings team that could go right back to.
But Hayes, they got Sabonis making a lot of money, DeRozan making good money, LaVine making a lot of money. Like Keegan Murray's contract is gonna be around the corner here soon. Like they got some. They're in a weird place, but anyway, that's enough on that game. But it was a good win.
Yeah, good win. I mean, they are in a weird place, but we'll see what the direction of that franchise is. Any last thoughts, White, before we get out of here?
Nope. Great NBA night.
Yeah, fun NBA night, man. Make sure you guys stay locked in with us over here on Locked On NBA. On this feed, you also get the Locked On NBA Daily Show as well as Game Night, where we're recapping games every single night. So make sure you guys stay in with us on that one. Thank you guys for tuning in. We'll see you guys on the next Game Night. Peace.